You've got a great idea for a small business, but you just can't get it off the ground. You want to be your own boss, set your own hours. Well, new year means new opportunities, and Shopify's got you covered to help get your venture off the ground. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. You can get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. And they help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard. Don't kick yourself next holiday season when your 2025 resolution list looks the same as it does today. Make it happen with Shopify. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/income.
This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
It's Throwback Thursday.
Hey everybody, Chris Fafali is here, back with another Throwback Thursday. I can't believe it's already been 3 years since this one came out, but this week we're throwing it back to January 31st, 2022, when Raine Maida sat in to discuss the writing and recording of Clumsy by Our Lady Peace. As is par for the course with all of our past Canadian guests, Raine was very gracious and so much fun, and I think you're all going to enjoy this one, whether you're listening to it again or for the first time. As usual, don't forget to check out DeMakes.com. That's our Patreon. Tons of great stuff there. At the very least, go check it out and see if supporting our pod is something that you'd want to do. We've got an endless back catalog of bonus episodes and videos over there. So yeah, Chris and I would absolutely appreciate your support. And here you go. From January 31st of 2022, this is episode 88. Raine Maida discusses Our Lady Peace's Clumsy.
Hey everyone, today's guest is Raine Maida, lead vocalist for the Toronto, Canada rock band Our Lady Peace. Raine and I take a deep look inside the writing, recording, and release of the hit single Clumsy, taken from their 1997 album of the same name. It was interesting to hear that Our Lady Peace rarely goes into the studio with fully realized demos, preferring to go in with loose ideas, and allowing the songs to grow organically through the process. I mentioned that for their biggest song, I was surprised to see Clumsy so far down on the album's track listing, number 7 out of 11. Raine said that while everybody in the band and their producer liked the track, it wasn't an initial standout. It wasn't until they went on the road opening for Alanis Morissette on a cross-Canada arena tour that they knew the song was special as to how it was resonating with fans. And speaking of producers, Clumsy was produced by Arnold Lanni, who produced fellow Canadians Simple Plan, whom we've had on a previous episode. I think his production is awesome, and Raine had some really great things to say about working with him. For all this and a bunch more, stick around.
Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a podcast.
Question for you. I did a lot of co-writes with co-writers back around 2005. Did we meet around then through Howard Benson? We did. You came down to the studio.
Yep.
Okay. I don't believe anything came of that. I think you came down, but I do recall meeting you. That was me that worked with you. So it's been a while.
It's been a minute. Those were some good memories back then. You know, jumping around, writing, having fun.
That's awesome. So you've been in LA for 20 years now.
Yeah. I mean, look, you kind of came here to do the writing thing. My wife's a writer as well. She kind of stuck with it. I kind of bailed on that probably around that time. Started working with like some Disney artists. I was like, you know what, man, I'm not cut out for this. So I moved into tech as like my side hustle.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about Clumsy today, and I just want to start off and talk about producer Arnold Lanni, because there's some some crazy things that have gone on with him. I had Simple Plan on, and they recorded their debut album with Arnold, and here was a guy. I knew his band Sheriff. I love their hit "When I'm With You."
Oh wow!
I think that's one of the coolest songs ever, man. Just one of those hair on the back of your neck raising songs when they hit that high note.
Yeah.
Baby,
I've talked about Arnold on this show a bunch, but he was an 80s guy. And here you guys, I know he's a fellow Canadian, but here you guys are a 90s band. A lot of those guys in the 80s were getting the door slammed in their face. How did the collaboration with Arnold pan out?
It was so wild. Honestly, it was really, we were doing some demos, and I was, born and raised in Toronto. So we were doing some demos and looking for a studio, and a friend of mine said, hey, we know this guy's a producer. He actually bought his own studio. He's got his band, Sheriff, but he has a studio and he kind of rents it out. We had no money. He's like, if you guys wanted to go in like literally after hours from like midnight till 8 a.m., probably cut you a deal. So we did that. And so I think it was like a week we were doing that. Literally, I guess Arnold was working with some people during the day, and then we'd show up around 11 and usually see Arnold, just say hi. He kind of just give us the rundown and say, don't mess with this, leave this alone. You can use this, use that. And then all of a sudden, the demos we did that week, we took to the CMJ in New York, and literally like, a CD with 3 or 4 songs on it. But we got all these calls for whatever reason. People dug it. And like Interscope from Los Angeles wanted to come out to Toronto and see us, and Geffen and Sony Music in Canada was really hot on us, and A&M, and it was like we were kind of like still in this spot where didn't know anyone. And so Arnold was like the one guy I kind of knew in the music business, and I called him. I said, hey, Arn, those demos we did at your place, like we have all these people calling us and want to come see us. We don't really have, like, I can't bring him to where we're rehearsing. It was outside of Toronto in like a flooded basement. So I was like, can we use a studio one day to have these people come in and see us just kind of rehearse and talk to us? He was like, yeah, no problem. So it just became this organic thing. And then all of a sudden he was like, you know what? These songs are really good. We started kind of working together, and it just kind of took off from there. We ended up signing a deal where it never felt like an official big deal. It was more like, hey, you guys seem like, whatever you're doing in your demos, just keep doing it, and, we'll put out a record. And so it was a really, like I said, very organic relationship with him that lasted 4 records and lots of drama and fun and craziness. But he's a very unique musician and producer.
Yeah, I've gotten that. And in fact, I had complete deja vu when you're telling me the After Hours thing. A Simple Plan recanted the same story. It's like, we were these young ragtag kids. We get in there and just, hey, this is the time we have after hours. We're going to throw you in here and do some demos. So that's really cool that you're kind of backing up that story with the same thing. And you guys preceded them,
Yeah, well, I think Arnold I think he told us later on, he goes, that was a great test for him, just in terms of, hey, are these guys real? Are they, to go in and work for whatever 7 or 8 days straight after hours. And we all had jobs or were in school. I was at University of Toronto. So he just was like, okay, these guys actually really mean this. And he felt like it's worth the energy from him.
What was the deal back in the day with Canadian bands? I always felt that they kind of got the shaft. You'd be on Sony Canada, but you wouldn't be on America. Like your first record, Navid, came out in '94 in the spring in Canada, but it wasn't released in the U.S. For a year later. But that was never flipped. It wasn't like a U.S. band got signed to Capitol, but they weren't on EMI in Canada.
I know.
Like what's the deal with that?
Yeah, it was weird back then. The business has changed now, obviously, but it was kind of and look, we had the opportunity, I think, to sign with an Interscope or even Geffen, but the Sony thing in Canada felt safer, only in the sense that, like, Interscope, I remember when they flew up to Toronto, we talked to them, and they're like, it was very official, and they were just like, yeah, we're gonna do this with you, we're gonna bring you to LA to record, and it just felt like it was pulling us out of our comfort zone. And even the point where it was like, we want to listen to demos, and you guys really need to write like another 20 songs or 25. And I was like, whoa, this is like not the path that I was thinking. So, I think you take that Canadian deal and it comes with a little bit more freedom, but it took us a minute. Like we had to really work it to kind of get noticed in the US. And then finally on Clumsy, Big Donnie Einer at Columbia was like, I want this band, I want this record. So we flipped it and signed directly to America.
Well, that's great. The record was released on January 23rd of 97. And a couple things. The first single was Superman's Dead.
I'm thinking, why, yeah, Superman's dead, yeah, living in my head, yeah.
Then the second single was Clumsy, followed by Automatic Flowers, Carnival, and 4 a.m. The album had five singles, which is incredible. But I noticed that the song Clumsy was buried at number 7 out of 11 on the record. Did you guys not think this was a hit?
Is that bad?
Well,
I don't know. You're as an artist, you're a little bit too inside it. I felt like that song was a little like poppy. And so probably that's, Chris, to be honest, probably tried to hide it a bit.
interesting, because I'll tell you, nowadays it doesn't matter. No one's digesting albums song 1 to
Right.
11. It's all singles driven. But back then it was like, okay, you have the rocker in position 1, the semi rocker in 2, and 3 or 4, maybe the ballad or slower song comes in, and all those 4 songs are your hits at the top. But when you see a track number 7, and maybe go, I wonder if they didn't think they had a hit on their hands here.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what a hit was. it was more of a feeling for me. And I just felt like, look, because people were definitely excited. And I'm even, Columbia was very excited about that song. But I think my hope would have been like the 3rd single or something. And we could have put out, 2 heavy songs first. But whatever, I'm not complaining.
No, not at all. And now, do you recall when this song was written? Was it something that was left over from Naveed, or was it written specifically for Clumsy? And do you recall when you wrote it?
Yeah. It was definitely like a studio thing. We'd gone into the studio to make this follow-up record, had tons of ideas. And it was one of those things that quarterly it was kind of there. The thing that really, I was really in it, I still am, this band called Shudder to Think.
Oh yeah.
They have this song called Little Earthquakes, and they do this breakdown, and his voice gets really small and like breathy and just sucks you right in.
Out where tears pour, while the good completely bored to the teeth. Everyone moves too slow, guaranteed.
And so, a song is a song on acoustic, but there was that key moment, which we turned into the bridge, actually breaking it down for the bridge of just, I'll be waving my hand, watching you drown part. And then the piano part, none of us played piano. So Arnold is a piano player by trade. He started playing piano at the beginning and just messing with the mod wheel and having it be a little bit out of tune. All of a sudden the song kind of came to life in the studio with those 2 parts. And really, it was pretty easy after that. But you're always looking for like something that makes the song unique, if that makes sense. I think for all the songs on that record, even Superman's Dead, I remember kind of writing the chords and just in the lounge while someone was, I think Duncan was doing bass or something. And, it was fine on just as acoustic going up and down. But, all of a sudden, there's little elements that, okay, this is an OLP song now.
Was the song ever demoed prior to the record, or was this something that was kind of created in the studio?
Yeah, most of the songs, they were literally like sketches. So just acoustic or little piano things. And, it was the first time we just went into a studio like that to make a record without like demos, for real.
I hear artists talking about that, Raine, and I just marvel at it. I can't imagine going in. It's like I didn't do my homework and I'm taking the big test. I wish I had the guts to go in and create like that. It's without a net, kind of.
I hear you, Chris, and probably I would say 90% of everything we've ever done, we've had some sort of demo. But we just worked on our new record with Dave Siddick from TV on the Radio, and he's hopefully we'll do another record with him. But he is a big proponent. He's like, we got to go to Texas. Don't bring any ideas. Let's just get it. There's like, this place called The Ranch.
Yeah.
It was just like, you go there, man, and you just let it envelop you and let the vibe and the gear and all the cool instruments and go in open-minded and fresh. And I'm willing to try it at this point. Like, I think that'd be fun.
I had read online that obviously lead vocalist, you did acoustic guitar on the record, and it said piano too, but you just mentioned that Arnold actually played the piano on the record.
Yeah. I mean, I could play a few notes and basic chords, but Arnold's like a real piano player. And so there's a part in the verse of Clumsy that follows the guitar and the melody, and that's all Arn.
Well, we're going to jump into the song now. It's 4.5 minutes long, and I wrote here that one of the first things was the single piano notes at the top almost sounds like it has a flange effect or something, and you had just talked about that.
Well, I remember sitting there. We all probably took turns at it. Arn was just playing that intro piano part, and then someone would be on the mod wheel on the Kurzweil keyboard that we're using, and just trying to get the right. I think it's that Nine Inch Nails track we were inspired by.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that creepy piano. And so we tried to, you know, definitely borrow from that.
It's got that slight horror movie vibe to it.
Exactly.
It's just a little. It's a little off and a little weird, and it's perfect for this. And it's the first 14 seconds of the track. At the 15-second mark, we hit verse 1. The acoustic guitar is panned off left.
Throw away the radio, suitcase keeps you awake. Hide the telephone in case you realize that sometimes you're just not okay. You level up, and it's not alright now. You need to understand there's nothing strange about this. You need to know your friends. You need to
Interesting. There's bongos in this song that are panned off to the right, and bongos weren't really a thing like in the 90s for you know, you look back at the alternative or the grunge bands, whatever you want to call them, and the alternative radio bands such as yourself, it's like that wasn't a thing. Where did that inspiration come from?
You know, it's funny because you're right on the money in terms of like that track. What were we trying to do with it? All the way down to like hiding it on the record. We just knew it was like, you know, one of the most pop songs we'd written. And so I think we were just doing everything in our kind of like wheelhouse to give it something interesting. And so like definitely that intro part, like you said, it's 14, 15 seconds long. I'm surprised the label wasn't just like, yeah, this is cool for the record, but we're going to cut this, you know, for the radio. But like you said, giving it that little bit of like horror-y kind of creepy vibe, just to set a different tone and have a juxtaposition on the record. And then I think once you get into the song with the verse and the acoustics, the bongos, okay, this will give it a bit of a different flavor as well. And, you know, it was just, we were doing everything we could to make it a little bit more unique.
Yeah, well, I went out and checked a bunch of live performances out of the song, and yeah, it's 14 seconds, but it's 14 seconds of the fans going nuts. As soon as that piano hits, it's like they all know what's happening. It's such a great hook. It's just single notes on a piano.
Yeah, it's a moment for sure. And oh my gosh, we didn't know that going into it, but yeah, I think, you know, the attention to detail on like the first thing that you hear from a band is always kind of important. And thank God we did something like that for Clumsy.
Yeah, for sure. I had actually wrote in my notes that the piano sounds warbly, which is a strange word, but that was the first thing that came to mind when I heard it. And it's interesting that you're playing with the wheel to get that effect. I'm going to recite the lyrics to verse 1 here, and I want you to set it up. And going back real quick to what you said about this just kind of being a pop song. It's a pop song, but man, it's kind of a strange arrangement, and some of the parts, how they go together, are very unique in this track. And I'm looking forward to talking to you about them. The lyrics for verse 1 are: throw away the radio, suitcase keeps you awake, hide the telephone in case you realize that sometimes you're just not okay. You level off, and it's not all right now. You need to understand there's nothing strange about this. You need to know your friends. You need to know that. What's happening here?
It's the attempt to take something that probably could have been a little simpler. And I'm not sure if Arn tried to probably convince me, but take us, you know, the through line of the story and just kind of come at it from a different angle. I was kind of a fan of like the beat poets growing up and studied that literature and their kind of stuff in college. And it was just taking a little bit of that slant on it, making it a little bit more open up to interpretation rather than just spoon feeding a listener, if that makes sense.
Were these lyrics that you had in a sketchbook, a lyric book, or was this something you came up on the spot for the track?
I did, yeah. I mean, I've always kept those kind of 3-ring binders back in the day. Everything's on my phone now, obviously, but yeah. Yeah, I used to just keep binders of thoughts and all kind of stream of conscious. I was always, even early on, I was always kind of adamant about not committing anything until almost like in a weird way, if I knew it was going to actually make a record, because there was a couple times on our first album where we had songs that didn't make the record, and like some of my best lyrics were on there. I was bummed. I was like, damn,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with this now? Like, and just as an artist, you get so kind of attached to it in that song, it's hard to pull it out and reuse it and rework it. So those opening lines to me were just kind of sketched out, but they fit, like the cadence fit. I was like, okay, this is the right path. And so, and that's kind of what I do anyway. Just look through stuff and see. I try to find something organic, like just, it's more about colors. Like, does this kind of fit what the music makes me feel, or whatever I'm playing, an acoustic or whatever. And those ones were, they were just sitting in a notebook, thank God. And it happened quickly.
You just reminded me of something. I've had songs before that I don't like any of the song except the bridge part. I'm like, it's golden. I can't record this song. The song's a piece of garbage.
Right.
I can't waste this bridge on that song. And that's kind of what you're talking about with these lyrics. Like, the song wasn't great, but the lyrics were awesome.
Exactly. So funny. Exactly. Yeah. I really try to be protective of that stuff.
Oh, I got a whole voice memos full of parts like that I can't figure out what song they're going to go into. They're brilliant on their own, but you can't have a 12-second song,
That's it. Although you can these days.
Yeah. Well, something else interesting here. During this verse, the drums drop in. You got the keys, kind of playing as you were saying. Arnold's doing his thing. The acoustic's still there. The bongos are still in, but I don't hear bass here on the first verse.
Yeah, I think that we saved the bass right into the pre-chorus. It felt like. Well, I mean, even what you just said, like there's a lot of stuff going on, and it felt like it could kind of survive without the bottom end. We don't want to throw like the kitchen sink in there, so leaving the bass out felt like the right thing to do. And then when the that pre-chorus comes in, it was really meant to have like this train-like effect. So we added the tremolo on the guitar and the bass kind of playing eighth notes. Really, kind of all of a sudden, if it was a little bit loose, it just tightens right up.
Yeah, no, it's interesting though. I mean, you could have a verse with no bass if it's just a guitar, maybe with a piano, maybe with a shaker or something, but you got the full band in here and there's no bass. I was like, whoa, where's the bass? But then when it comes in, it all makes sense.
It's interesting you say that, because it's spawning these memories, Chris, where we were also, and I don't know if we were like too precious about that, but I remember having conversations in the studio and we were talking about like, okay, but who's going to play this live? And so I think part of the thing was like, Duncan will play piano live up until the pre-chorus and then switch to bass. I think part of it was we were given a tour. We already knew we were going on tour opening for Alanis Morissette across Canada and like these big arenas. And we were making this record and recording that song literally before that tour was happening. So we were thinking about that stuff, maybe like stupidly, but it was like, we were thinking like, how do we do this live? And so that was probably one of the reasons why we were like, hey, no bass right here, because Duncan's going to have to play piano.
You don't know how much I get exactly what you're talking about, because how many times, I don't know if you ever had this happen, where producers told me, because we're a live band, my band, our bread and butter is playing live. That's how we make money. We sell T-shirts. How many people are in the building? That's what we do, right? And the producer, we're making a record. It's like, well, how are we going to do that part live? And then we're making a record. I don't give a damn how you do it live.
Right. I know. Exactly.
But we as artists think of that because you want to be able to pull it off.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up. All these memories came flashing back to me about conversations like that.
Yeah, I mean, and of course you can use backing tracks. Plenty of bands do it. We don't do it. So that was never a thing with us. Like, oh, we'll just put it on the backing track. It's like, how are we going to do this live as a 5-piece band? At the end of this verse, when you say you need to know that line is sung alone while the band stops there. And then we get into pre-chorus one.
You need to know your friends. You need to know that I'll be waving my hand, watching you drown, watching you scream, quiet all
I gotta tell you, this sounds like a chorus to me.
Wow, really?
I don't know if you've ever thought about it like that. This sounds like chorus number 1, but it's not. It's a pre-chorus that happens 3 times in the song. The chorus happens 3 times, and I think this part has to be in the song 3 times because it's just so darn catchy. We get our first harmonies at this point on all 4 lines. I'm going to read the lyrics and have you set these up. I'll be waving my hand, watching you drown, watching you scream, quiet or loud.
That was the image for me. When we were working the song out with Arn in the studio, I put up that Shudder to Think song. And I was like, again, like I knew the song was poppy, but that the breakdown they have in their little earthquake song, I was in love with that record at the time, but I just felt like if we could capture that same mood where it's this really visceral, I not simple, but like it just hits you. And so the whole, someone drowning and like waving for your help, that was it for me. And it, not only convinced me that we should really pursue this song, but it just felt like, okay, this is musically and artistically a really powerful kind of color again. I just think in colors for music, and I was just like, this is it. And so that I agree, like that pre-chorus, I never thought of it as a chorus, but I did think like it deserved to be preceding both choruses, but then almost acting as a bridge again, broken down before the last chorus.
Later, yeah. Well, it's catchy as hell. And man, you're bringing up some memories. My birthday, we were a very young band, had just started out. My birthday in '92, we played a show in Gainesville, Florida, our hometown, opening up for Shudder to Think and Jawbox.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
I love Jawbox too. Yeah,
yeah, and Shudder to Think. I'm gonna have to go back and visit their catalog. What a great band. The drums and the whole band get louder at this pre-chorus, which again, coming off that verse, and now the bass is in there, as you said, with those eighth notes, it kind of lifts. I'm like, this could be a chorus. The drums are banging really loud on that crash cymbal. Clean guitar is here doing open chords on the one. Overdriven guitar with the tremolo effect is loudly in the mix, as you were talking about. And on the last line, when you say quiet or loud, the band then plays 2 bars like instrumental before the chorus.
And maybe you should sleep. And maybe you just need a friend as clumsy as you've been. There's no one laughing. You will be safe with
It almost sounds like it's going to drop into verse 2 or reintro. It kind of like fizzles out, and then you go into the chorus, which again, that's one of the parts in the song that's just, it's kind of strange to me when you're listening. It's kind of like, okay, we're going to go back and do a reintro or something. No, now you're in the chorus, which is just as catchy or more catchy than the pre-chorus.
Yeah, I mean, it was another mechanism for us just to add something, like trying to be musicals, add something a little bit interesting into what we knew was like, could have just been a simple pop song. So yeah, it's so funny. Like I've never dissected, it's so crazy, Chris. I've never dissected it like this, but it really highlights all the things we did to try to make sure that it wasn't just like a simple pop song. So that little 2-bar thing there is really interesting, or at least musical. Hopefully, like you said, maybe the first time you don't know what's coming, and it actually goes into a bigger section.
You typically think like, okay, and then especially after the 2 bars there, the chorus doesn't hit on the one. The lyric comes in after the chorus hits, which is, again, it doesn't follow a conventional arrangement here. But the chorus, I'm going to read these lyrics. I'll have you set these up. And maybe you should sleep, and maybe you just need a friend as clumsy as you've been. There's no one laughing. You will be safe in here. You will be safe in here.
Yeah, I mean, this was personal experiences, relationships, the whole thing of like teenage angst, lying in bed, not wanting to get out of bed. Like it really kind of like just plays to that, trying to get people to go to that place, which I felt at that time a lot of kids could probably relate to. I definitely could. And so, the imagery was really important in this song. Because I really actually tend to be more cryptic lyrically, and this was trying to kind of simplify things so people could see like a painting, if that makes sense.
And this recording to me sounds analog. You didn't do this to Pro Tools, correct?
No, this was the last analog album we did. Yeah.
Okay, and I can hear that. I can hear that on how stuff's breathing, and it's not. There's no cookie cutter, cut and paste the choruses and fly it to chorus 2. They each have their own unique feel. Oh
yeah, I mean, you talk about that. You were talking about the pre-chorus and the tremolo. Like trying to get that in time was like back then was took way more time than it would today. That's for sure. But I think the cool thing is it's not perfectly in time. Like it kind of moves. I think it falls off. It slows down a little bit at the end, which is I mean, music's great like that.
It's kind of, a couple clicks of the mouse. Now we can fix things like that.
Yeah, almost unfortunately, I think sometimes,
I know.
Hey everybody, Chris DeMakes, a podcast producer, Chris Fafalius here. We got to take a quick break for a few words from our sponsors, so don't go anywhere. But before we do, I wanted to let you all know that Our Lady Peace just released their new album, Spiritual Machines 2, so you should check it out. And here's a clip of an amazing song from it. This is Stop Making Stupid People Famous.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits, to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum, built for business by American Express.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com right now and get up to 40% off select styles, plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Every listener to Too Much Effing Perspective knows that my co-host Alan Keller is a music nerd, and right up there in his pantheon with the Beatles and Elvis Costello is The Clash. So Alan, it's one thing for you to be a nerd, but how did you rope in a cool guy, 311's Nick Hexum, into a full-on Clash geek fest on our show?
Well, first of all, Alex, it was your idea.
Oh, right.
Second, Nick actually jammed with The Clash's Joe Strummer in a supergroup that included Flea and Tom Morello.
Okay, well, there is that.
And finally, one member of The Clash cited This Is Spinal Tap, the reason our show even exists, as his favorite movie.
Which one?
Hey, if you want to find out, you got to listen to Too Much Effing Perspective. That's Too Much EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.
The number you have reached is 100.7 WMMS.
It wasn't just a radio station, it was a lifestyle.
Cleveland is a rock and roll city for sure.
We're gonna do like the Chicago's.
Get down!
The Wrath of the Buzzard. WMMS. Cleveland.
The rise and fall of one of the most iconic radio stations in America. Profiles, The Wrath of the Buzzard. PROH Files. Subscribe now wherever you get podcasts.
Hello, Tom May here, host of Future Friday. I've spent the last 15 years on the road with my band, The Menzingers, where I've met all kinds of wild and fascinating people. So I started a podcast. On Future Friday, I talk to fellow musicians about the moments that made them, their passions outside of music, and the curiosities that tie us all together. I've also talked to the likes of UFO researchers, magicians, soldiers, and documentary filmmakers, and I'm constantly searching for folks that can shape and change our view of the world. You can check out Future Friday wherever you like.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Nolan, and this is the Corner of Gray Street podcast. As longtime Dave Matthews Band fans, we set out to create a podcast to dive deep into the past, present, and future of DMB.
Not only do we recap and review shows within an ongoing tour, but we revisit past shows from throughout the band's history, conduct interviews with a wide variety of guests with ties to DMB, and create unique and exclusive content like our Concerts on the Corner series.
Whether you're a fan of the band or just a fan of great music, we think you'll find something you'll enjoy. We can't wait to see you on the Corner of Gray Street.
Hey everyone, this is Tuck from Fit for a King, an off-road minivan. Every week I bring you fun interviews alongside your favorite metalcore entertainers with my new podcast, Get Tucked. Join me every Monday with bands like Counterparts, Crystal Lake, like Moths to Flames, and many more. We play unsigned and undiscovered bands, deep dive into each artist's history, and of course provide the greatest breakdowns in current metalcore. Tune in to Get Tucked every Monday, out now through Sound Talent Media.
And now, back to the show.
There's a couple harmonies within the chorus here. It's interesting. As clumsy as you've been, there's no one laughing. Just on those two lines.
As clumsy as you've been, there's no one laughing.
Do you recall how that came about? Was that per Arnold's suggestion or something you said, we should have harmonies here? Or did you sing on the rest of the chorus and he kind of went, we only need it right there?
Yeah, I definitely was not, because our first album, there's not a lot of harmonies at all. And so Arnold we were just trying to find ways to expand our sound. Yeah, Arn was great. That was one of the tools with Arnold that was amazing because he played piano so well. He could just show harmony on piano right away. And I was like, oh, the third, yeah, that's too poppy. Fourth, oh, that's kind of cool. It sounds like closer to Alice in Chains or, a fifth. It was just nice to have him as that kind of musician. As a producer in the studio where you could get it right away. It was pretty huge asset for us.
Again, that's cool you mentioned that because where I really learned how to sing and with harmonies was producer Howard Benson. He's a pianist and composer. Yeah. And you can just, when you have someone like that and go, here's the harmony on my right hand, it just opens up a whole new door for you.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I was always jealous. I was like, I got to learn how to play piano. I should have listened to my mom.
Yeah, exactly. I took lessons for like 8 months. Didn't like the teacher and bailed. Well, the drums in the chorus here go to a halftime feel I wrote, even though it's really not halftime. The tambourine is on the snare hits, just one every snare hit, and is really loud in the mix. The tambourine's really loud in a good way. The stereo guitars are here. They're overdriven with the guitar panned left doing this arpeggiated picking that's accenting the vocal melody. Really cool. Do you recall how some of those overdubs came about?
Yeah, I mean, we just tried to, I think, sonically open it up. So finding like the arpeggiated part made it feel wider. It gave it like a sparkliness because the pre-chorus is kind of just it's more in a box and driving. So we tried to find all those different mechanisms to kind of make it sparkle, and those things all kind of add to that. I think even the tambourine. And I'm not a big tambourine guy. So I don't know if it was a battle, but yeah, it took some convincing for sure.
It's interesting. Like I said, it's when I say it's loud in the mix, not in a bad way, but it's really present up there. Yeah. It's like if you don't like tambourine, sometimes I'm like, okay, well, we're going to put it in there, but we're going to kind of bury it here. That's not what they did here.
No, I know. And it's funny, you mentioned before in the pre-chorus, like the ride cymbal, where it's just a crash ride.
The crash,
I remember our label saying, can we turn that down? And again, I was like, no, fucking way. Like, this is what's making it's keeping it somewhat of a rock song,
Well, and typically that's why I kind of was calling that the chorus, or thinking, because it's so brash and it's so loud there. Then the chorus comes in, and the chorus isn't as almost heavy as the pre-chorus part. You typically don't do that. You're building, but in this instance, it works. There's kind of a third chorus here, Raine, in my opinion. Now we're going double time. You will be safe in here. It's like a different part, and you get that for 2 times. And it really lifts here, and it's almost, I called it a post-chorus.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, I think part of the feeling was that lyric warranted being repeated in a way, just to kind of, I don't know, get that thought out in a stronger way. Because at the end of the day, that I think that lyric, "You'll be safe in here," is what is, I don't want to say heartfelt, but it's what kind of draws you into, like, okay, the drown thing could be really dark. I'm sure people perceive it as really dark, but it's like, you're providing that relief and safety at the end. So the repeating it was, part to double down on that message. And then again, Arnold was always really good at, or really kind of a real bitch, to be honest, about wanting the drums to be the leader, in parts and sections, and getting busier with drums. He was never afraid of that, which was kind of cool.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why I think the tambourine is so perfect, hitting just on the snare hits prior to this part, is because, the drums coming here now, it's like a double time, albeit with almost like a backwards beat that's happening. Yeah. It's like a backwards double time beat, but the tambourine goes to 16th notes. It's just shaking here, and it makes this part seem so energetic and faster than it is. And the band doesn't speed up there, and I think it's a neat trick. And the guitar comes in on these last 2 lines, the "You will be safe in here" lines. It almost sounds like a synth, but is there like a flanger or like a harmonizer on there, a big muff like harmonizer or something on that guitar?
Yeah, like the one piece of, Arnold's studio was, it was great, but he had just started like buying gear, and the one outboard gear that we all fell in love with was the Eventide 3000. And so there was a setting that we kind of sound designed it with the Eventide and like saved it, and that became I sing through that same setting that was on the guitar in the bridge.
Okay.
So it was like whenever we were in doubt of like we need something unique, we just use that setting on the Eventide 3000. It was amazing.
That's cool. We'll get to that, which is a cool part. I love this part of the guitar part through that Eventide. It's the guitar mimics the melody line there.
Yeah.
Do you recall, was there ever a different guitar part, or was that how it was?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to extend some of the stuff, some of the arpeggiated stuff through the chorus, I remember, and it just didn't, it felt like that was, that section started to reveal itself, like you said, when we sped up the tambourine, it feels like, okay, this is its own thing. So let's bail from trying to pull other stuff in the chorus. So I think when we keyed into like repeating the melody on the guitar with that tone, it's just like, yeah, this works.
Gotcha. Well, that last line, "You will be safe in here," the band just goes right into verse 2. The band is in right off the top. It's the same instrumentation as verse 1, except there's bass throughout verse 2. The bass is here. And there's a guitar with what I wrote. I thought maybe it was an electro like harmonics big muff pedal, but it's probably the same pedal you were just speaking of here. It's kind of noodling throughout this verse, and this alone really sets this verse apart from verse 1.
Throw away this very old shoelace, trip you again, trying to shrug it off, shrug it off, shrug it off. So let's get now, need to understand, there's nothing fake about this, you need to let me in, watching you and
yeah, that guitar was huge. I remember as we were working on that part, and it just felt like, even without the vocal in, I was like, okay, this isn't, again, like, and I hate to keep referencing, but it doesn't feel like just some acoustic poppy song. Like that guitar felt just really unique. It's kind of on the thicker strings, and it's kind of muffled and muted, but it just felt like it gave that verse a vibe.
It's got the feel of a first take. I don't say that in a bad light. It just kind of feels like you're just in the corner noodling. It wasn't like really thought out, but it really sets that verse apart from verse 1.
No, 100%. It was. I think it was done on a 335, so it was meant to have kind of that jazzy, thicker tone, and it was supposed to feel like you said, like kind of rough around the edges. It wasn't supposed to be this like beautiful, pristine part. It was a great balance from everything else.
Yeah, because when you mentioned at the top, this is like just we just thought it was like a pop song. Like these little things set it apart from just an acoustic type pop song. It's these little flares in the song that definitely to me add that nuance. Verse 2, I'm going to read these lyrics and have you talk about them. Throw away this very old shoelace that tripped you again. Try and shrug it off, shrug it off, shrug it off. It's only skin now. You need to understand. There's nothing fake about this. You need to let me in. I'm watching you, and there's no stop here like verse 1. We go right into pre-chorus 2, but set these lyrics up if you can.
Yeah, I think more kind of not stream of conscious, but a little cryptic at the same time. Just using that more like beat po cadence, like repeating words. Things. They're always the Furling Nettys and all those guys were much more jagged with their poetry, and so just trying to work that in there. People were cool. Everyone was pretty cool to me, but I knew it's probably Arnold at the most, but he kind of let it slide. Like, can you just fucking tell us what you're talking about? You know what I mean? Like simply,
I'll tell you though, if there was ever a time to be a band, it was the 90s because you could write stuff like this and it was like, I don't know what they're talking about, but it's cool.
Exactly. So I felt like I had that freedom and kind of ran with it.
That's great. Well, pre-chorus number 2, it's the same first 3 lines, but the last line changes here. Instead of quiet or loud, you say no one's around.
I'll be waving my hand, watching you drown, watching you scream, no one's around.
All 4 of these lines are again harmonized. Why the lyric change there?
You know what? I mean, I don't know if I do that today, Chris, to be honest. Like I want to say I've gotten simpler or trying to be more basic, but we just felt like Arnold instilled in us. We're all Beatles fans. And when we found we had that love of the Beatles with each other, we just always analyzed every 4 bars, something changed. Like you're always trying to like evolve something and never just go back to a part that is really you've heard before without something new on it. And so a lot of times with these early records, like I did that lyrically as well. And like I said, I'm not sure if I would change it again because there are a couple songs where I've changed it and people don't buy in and they sing the old one. They sing the first pre-chorus.
I know.
So I'm like, am I fighting an uphill battle here? But that one I think they kind of get because it's just a slight change and maybe that's the way to do it.
Yeah, the old songwriting catch-22 for sure. I've dealt with that.
Yeah.
At the end of pre-chorus 2, there's this cool chorusy like flanger. I wrote space noise that kind of happens. I think that was probably went to tape and you just decided not to mute it. You just left it in because it was cool, right?
Yeah. There's those happy accidents they don't happen as much anymore, obviously, but back then It was fun. Yeah, it was fun, and everyone would look at each other like, "Don't touch it."
I think it's perfect. It adds to that realism. Chorus 2 is the same as chorus 1. Goes into that post-chorus.
And maybe you should sleep. And maybe you just need a friend as clumsy as you've been. There's no one laughing. You will be safe with me.
And then we get into this bridge where you're doing these oohs. It's hard to discern what is with the oohs there that you're doing. And when you hit that big F sharp chord there, it just opens up. It's really great. And it ushers in a whole new mood. The The drums seem to open up space-wise here. It almost seems like they got more reverb on the drums or something.
Yeah, probably. That was definitely, it's funny talking about Arnold, like in reverb, like the reverb, the use of reverb was really well done in the 80s, like, on the drums. And so I was always kind of like more apt to keep things drier and tighter sounding. But Arnold had a good handle on it. So it's probably something he did in the mix, just to give that a different space and separate it.
Right. I wrote the ooh vocals are accompanied by an almost moog sound. But again, it could be that guitar with the big muff, and I put a question mark, but it's that guitar again. And then you're running your vocals through that as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's back to that Eventide 3000. We ran everything through there.
It's such a trippy sound, and you can hardly hear, like the first time I listened to it and really, put the headphones on it, because I've heard the song obviously before, but really sat down and started listening, like, oh, he's singing that. And I'm like, wait a second, there's no vocals there. Is there vocals? And I'm like, I think it's two things. It's a crazy sound.
Yeah, well, that box was brilliant. Literally, we had fun just experimenting, singing. I would just sit on the couch in the control room, singing through the microphone and through that box. You could have harmonies and all different stuff, and it was amazing. It was a way to take my instrument and basically morph it into something unique.
At the end of the bridge here, I don't know, were you just, again, in front of the mic kind of riffing? You do this, and my notes are terrible, but you do this a lie-I like thing. And there's no lyrics there, but you're just kind of riffing there. Was that an accident or was that on purpose?
No, those were, I don't know what I was doing. And there was, again, one of those things where when we listen back, I think there was a moment where like, we got to write something for that. But, again, like trying to find moments that felt just kind of off the cuff for this kind of song were important. So probably fought to keep that.
Why shove a lyric in there if it doesn't matter? Is it really gonna make the part that much more dramatic?
Exactly.
Well, everything after this bridge, which the bridge is just huge, it's massive. Everything just quiets down. It's a single clean guitar and a vocal here, and it's pre-chorus 3.
I'll be waving my hand, watching you drown, watching you scream, quiet or loud.
I'll be waving my hand, watching you drown, watching you scream, and you're back to the first pre-chorus lyric of quiet or loud. Do you recall why you went back to that one and didn't keep the second one?
The way we broke it down, it just felt like that was the right lyric to say there because it got so quiet. Like that whole section was, again, that was completely borrowed from Shudder to Think. And the ability to really just make everything so small and intimate, just felt like that lyric worked better there.
I think it does. Yeah, the quiet, because the whole part's quiet. I think that's great. And on loud, the last word you say here, the hand kind of slides on the guitar. There's like this sloppy, out of tune feel for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that just happened before you stopped recording, and again you left it in.
Yeah, and it's funny because Arnold is such like a perfectionist with recording, the way he produces and stuff, like more of like the Mutt Lange kind of school he comes from. And so, yeah, anything for us that felt live was good. I think a lot of the stuff we're listening to and a lot of the artists that we kind of grew up on, we definitely, the Neil Youngs and stuff like that. Like it is what it was. You kind of, you didn't change things and you were trying to capture just something in a moment rather than trying to perfect it. So it's funny, you mentioned, it's just this little slide off the guitar that kind of is out of tune. Those things are really important to us in a weird way.
Yeah, no. And, chorus 3, I couldn't really hear any big, extra instrumentation that comes in. A lot of times, you'll run another pair of stereo guitars in, or you'll have a guitar up the middle in the last chorus. But this chorus hits so hard because the pre-chorus is quiet before it.
Yeah, exactly. Like we'd broken it down so much, made it so small and intimate that
it didn't need anything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Loud. And maybe you should sleep, and maybe you just need a friend as clumsy as you've been. There's no one laughing. You will be safe in here. You will be safe in here.
didn't even think about that, but definitely that's why no one ever even thought about, wow, like you said, you need another, a couple of guitars or anything.
Well, we get a full chorus and we get one more line of "You will be safe in here," and then you say "in here" 6 more times before the song ends. In between the in here's, you're doing this how wow, like little riffing again, no lyrics. Was that just off the cuff, or was that something that just happened?
Yeah. You try again, like just really again, like it's another section where we had the opportunity to add something that felt, like you said, very off the cuff and not premeditated, and trying to bring as much live feel on the vocal as well.
So before we wrap up here, Raine, I got to ask you. It was the second single. It was buried at number 7 on the record. When this thing started to gain traction, were you all surprised, or did it, I guess at some point when the mixes were coming back, was Arnold like, this is the one, or the label, or anybody in the band, or was this just a huge surprise to everybody how fast it climbed? Yeah,
what was interesting was because like I said, we'd recorded the record. Superman's Dead was actually written later, but we recorded the record and kind of had a good feel for it. I think the mixes were done, but we went out and toured. We weren't exactly finished. We knew we were coming back in to do a couple more songs, but we had this Alanis tour book, and we went out with Alanis Morissette and we played Clumsy. And this is only our second album, but we were like, what's happening? Like, people were starting to move, and you could see people stand up, and so we kind of knew there was something just immediate there. What was going to happen after that, I didn't know, but it was the first time we had a song that was new, where it was like, oh, they like it already and they never heard it. And that was a new feeling for me. So kind of had a feel like, okay, there's something cool here.
Yeah, I was going to say, what a great feeling. Well, listen, man, congrats on all of your success. Thanks for sitting in today. And anything you'd like to leave the listeners with before we sign off here? What's going on with you or the band?
Yeah, I mean, we literally have a new album coming out on the 28th of January. We did with Dave Sitek from TV on the Radio. Crazy record, Spiritual Machines 2, all based off Ray Kurzweil and futuristic predictions, and that's pretty amazing. And we sold it as I don't know if you're in the space, Chris, but we actually released the album as an NFT.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So we sold 500 records as NFTs just to fans that really wanted to get it early, which was kind of cool. There's we've both been in this business for a minute. This is like taking the power back and going directly to your fans, which is really cool. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, definitely new territory of technology. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but dude, this was amazing. I've never analyzed Clumsy or any of our songs like this. What a treat, man. Yeah, it's really, really great to talk to you. I really appreciate this.
That means a lot. Yeah, I like to take a deep dive here and really get into it. And you were great. Thank you.
Oh, fans are going to freak out over this stuff. I probably gave too much away, but it's fun.
There's lots more Chris DeMakes a podcast after a few words from our sponsors.
This is the story of Whitney Houston.
This is the story of Kurt Cobain.
Of George Michael, of Otis Redding, of Amy Winehouse, of Michael Hutchence, Bob Marley. This is the story of Prince.
It's a new podcast series
about how they died, why they died, and why we're still talking about them so long after.
It's like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's storytelling.
But it's more than that, because rock stars,
they tell us how we feel. They change our mood.
They change the clothes we wear, the people we hang out with,
the way we remember things.
It's them who give us those ludicrous moments, the ones where you're
jumping around, singing your heart out, feeling understood.
And it's those moments we'll help you remember, the ones you're thinking about right now.
That feeling.
That feeling.
It's coming soon from Crowd Network.
Just search for Death of a Rock Star on your podcast app.
And subscribe now.
I don't think it overstates things to say that the Beatles were the greatest gift to entertainment and culture of our time, a secular religion, if you will, with their universal appeal and demonstrable impact on people's lives. I'm Robert Rodriguez, host of Something About the Beatles. With every episode, I speak with historians, musicians, artists, and Beatle witnesses, all in the service of fresh insights into the most joyous cultural entity the world has ever known. I hope you'll join me and listen to Something About the Beatles, now on Evergreen and wherever you get your podcasts.
Bowie, Dylan, Marley. You've heard the names and maybe you've heard their songs, but what about the stories behind the records that made titans of music like these so universally loved and important? Join me, Josh Adam Myers, host of The 500, as each week I go through a different album from Rolling Stone magazine's 500 Greatest Albums list from 2012 with an incredible lineup of comedians, actors, and musicians talking about how the music has impacted their lives. New episodes of The 500 come out every Wednesday. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
What's up, everybody? I am Finn McKenty, host of the Punk Rock NBA podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. My podcast is all about doing what you love for a living, and every week I sit down and talk to people who have done exactly that. For example, musicians like Tommy from Between the Buried and Me, Matt from Periphery, Lil Lotus and Shinigami, among many others, photographers, artists, designers, YouTubers like Glenn Fricker and Sarah Dici, and I unpack exactly how they got to where they are today with the goal of helping you do the same. So if that sounds cool, you can listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com, and I'll see you there.
Hey, if you need a unique, thoughtful, and inexpensive gift for a friend or loved one, check out iloveenamelpins.com. Make someone's day by giving them a little present to show you care. Over 80 different pins are available, everything from cats and dogs to your favorite celebrities. And to top it off, you can use the discount code DeMakes at checkout to save 30% on your order. iloveenamelpins.com. Give them something to wear that shows that you care.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a podcast, all you have to do is email your song via MP3 only and bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured band is the Ghost Would Murder, a 5-piece band from Arizona that mixes folk, punk, and horror themes. The band consists of Becca Parks on guitar and vocals, Fernando Halsey on bass, Chris Lay on guitar and vocals, Ryan Graves on drums and vocals, and Paul Forehand on the violin. Here's a snippet of their song, Creature.
Oh babe, it's true. Creature on the Black Lagoon. Don't show your fear, don't show your scan. He's coming to life. Creature on the night. Na 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 na.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
All right, man, so you got to talk about Arnold Lanni again. Can we talk about Arnold Lanni anymore between the podcast and the after party? I mean, we got to get him at some point.
It's so weird. I don't know what it is, but when that Sheriff song used to come on in the 80s, I used to get this weird sixth sense about it, and I know what that sixth sense was. Now it's that I was going to be talking about this guy 30 freaking years later. It's so weird, right?
Yeah, he is a real fixture in our lives now. But hey, once again, he did a great job with this song. It's a giant hit song, and it's very interesting. I thought it was really cool that Raine talked about how they were always looking for something that makes the song unique. I think that's something that nowadays I realize more than ever is there has to be something about the song that doesn't sound like something you've heard before 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times.
Yeah, and I think some of it has to do with, they went analog with this. Nothing was, copied and pasted in Pro Tools. It was those little nuances of noise and little chorusy effects that happened after the verse would end. They left all that in, and it makes it feel real.
Right, and I heard this referenced lots of times in here, but I don't know that I thought of this song as like a pop song. I thought of it as a rock song. It was played on the rock station where I'm at. It's not like it was played on I don't remember it being played on the top 40 station. It probably was, but I would think of this as being played on The X or The Edge or whatever your rock station is, you know?
Yeah, he called this a pop song, but it's not just a simple acoustic pop song. Yeah, there's acoustic guitar in it, but it's got a strange arrangement as we discussed, and it's got a little edge to it. It's not just a simple pop tune.
Yeah, he talked about something that I think is important, and that is dynamics in songs. You talked about that last part where it gets real quiet, and then before that last chorus hits, it sounds so huge. Why does it sound so huge? Well, that's because it comes after a quiet part. It wasn't like you said, it wasn't that there were 6 more guitars added or there wasn't anything added. It's just that's how important the dynamics are in the in the songwriting itself. Recording aside, think about it in a live situation too. It's going to sound that much more powerful if it's following a part that isn't. That's like that's the whole 90s quiet, loud Nirvana Pixies thing, right?
For sure.
It all stems back to that.
For sure. And a lot of times, you're coming into the third pre-chorus and it's full band. It's like when that last chorus hits, well, you got to add some bells and whistles now. You really have to lift this last chorus. In this instance, you didn't need to. There was no more instrumentation that was added because it came off that quiet part and it just popped for chorus 3.
Yeah, and speaking of choruses, and you brought this up to him, and I felt like he was a little surprised that you said this, but you and I, before we started recording here, when we were waiting for Raine to get here, I was saying, like, this song sounds like it has multiple choruses. I feel like the I'd be waving my... That part sounds like a chorus to me, and then the actual chorus sounds like a chorus. It sounds like this could have been 2 songs with great choruses, but instead one of them's a pre-chorus. I would take that as a compliment. I hope he does.
Yeah.
It's like your parts are so good that they could have been choruses on their own,
Well, and it's interesting, this song, that the pre-choruses are undoubtedly, besides the bridge, probably the heaviest parts of the song. That crash cymbal is just wide open. He even said someone at the label wanted to turn that down. They thought it was too brash, too loud, because rarely do you have a pre-chorus that's bigger than the chorus. And if it is, the chorus isn't going to work. But in this time, it does. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a great song. I thought it was cool. You guys talked about. You've talked about this on several episodes, but about changing lyrics to the pre-chorus. And It was, the same thing Raine said is what we've talked about before, is that people sometimes, a lot of times, will just sing whatever the first one was. It's kind of a lot of information to remember. I think the real fans will know the words though.
The real fans do, but there's sometimes when a lyric just hits you so good, it's like, why change it? And I think that was the conundrum he was in here, but he changed it just the one time. And then I think his explanation of pre-chorus 3 was perfect. It's like to bring back the lyric quiet or loud the last time because it's quiet there. I think it fits the mood perfectly.
And what a nice guy. I said, okay, he's been living in LA for 20 years, so maybe he doesn't count as a Canadian anymore, but he'll always be a Canadian. Something about Canadians, so nice, so friendly. I felt like he had a really good time doing this, which always makes me feel good about our podcast.
That's right, and it makes me feel good to do the podcast and do such things as the after party. How about you, Chris?
I mean, I love this podcast, but the after party, Chris, funny you should mention that. That is our podcast that comes out every week for our supporting cast members. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes, like this week, for example, it has to do with the episode that we just did. And I have a lot of fun making those with you, Chris. We have a lot of episodes of the after party now. We have a big back catalog that people will have access to if they sign up for our supporting cast.
Yeah, I kind of look at it as the rap after the rap. We kind of expound on things further, and it's a lot of fun. And if you'd like to be part of our supporting cast program, head over to ChrisDeMakes.com, and for a couple bucks a month, you can join us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like buying me and Chris each a really small Yankee candle each month. just one of those really small ones, because you enjoy our podcast and you're like, here's my offering. It's a small Yankee candle to make the room smell nice. And I want to do that for you guys once a month because you bring such joy to my life and so many stories behind songs that I love.
And we want to continue bringing you joy because we love making this podcast, and we appreciate all the support. If you haven't already, join the Chris DeMakes a Podcast Facebook group. We'd love to have you be a part of it with almost 4,000 active members at this point. It's the place where we all go and unite and talk about the podcast, talk about what guests you want and all kinds of other stuff. And please give me a follow on Instagram at LessThanChrisD. honesty, I'd appreciate it. Want to thank this week's guest, Raine Maida, for being on the show, and we'll see you next week.
Welcome to us talking about our podcast for a minute.
What's the name of that podcast?
That's Axe to Grind, and right now you're going to be getting a little taste of it, right down to the shaky microphone and all.
And my name's Bob.
And my name's Patrick, and usually we're joined by Tom.
Tom's the best. Tom has a real grown-up job that requires him to be at work, but we talk about decidedly not so grown-up things like
hardcore music and things that people that like hardcore music tend to like.
So that could be the latest shows, revisiting classic material, talking about the new classics, all the little dorm room nonsense that you imagine from niche music podcasts that you either love, want to love, or hate.
Yeah, imagine all the emotions that you have towards a genre that has impacted your life, and then condense them down to an hour to 2 hours a week.
So triangulate your speakers, think about jumping off the bed, singing along, dancing like an idiot, and listen to Axe to Grind podcast.
The Helping Friendly podcast explores the music and fan experience of Phish through interviews and deep dives on shows and tours. For more than 10 years, we've created insightful and fun discussions about our favorite band, and with the help of our guests and thematic series, we're still discovering new angles of appreciation for Phish. And when the band is on tour, we provide a review of every show the following day. As one of our listeners said, any Phish fans that enjoy meandering conversations and incredible insight on new and old Phish shows, this is for you. Highly recommend. It's not just about the band and the shows, it's about the journey getting there. Throughout 2024, we're going to be running down the top 25 Phish tours of all time, and that'll be interspersed with show reviews and regular episodes. Join us and check out the Helping Friendly podcast wherever you get your podcasts.